After a search process that had more twists and turns than your average conclave, the New York Knicks finally announced Mike Brown as their new head coach over the holiday weekend. What does it mean for the Nova Knicks? Could a new direction at the top lead to any movement for the former Cats? We'll break it down next on Holy Nova. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Holy Nova, part of the Big East Energy Network. I'm Matt Janis with David White. And David, it's that time of year, the summer season. We're always looking for topics, and we'd love feedback from the audience. Drop us a question in the comments if there's anything you want to hear us discuss about Villanova basketball. Stephen recently reached out with a good one over the holiday weekend. With the hiring of Mike Brown, will there be any movement of Jalen Bronson, Josh Hart, or Mikal Bridges like we saw last summer with Dante DiVincenzo? Well, David, only James Nolan and the Knicks, right? I don't think many saw the firing of Tom Thibodeau coming. Fewer still anticipated Brown taking over a team that was just 2 wins away from the NBA Finals. But here we are. Do we think it means anything for the trio of Nova legends?
Well, I think we can take Jalen Brunson off the table.
I'd say that's safe.
James Dolan is crazy and maybe the worst owner in the NBA now that Donald Sterling isn't in LA. But I don't think he's that crazy to get rid of possibly his best player. And the usage rate on Brunson is off the roof. So you're really talking about whether Hart and Bridges are in any sort of jeopardy of being traded. I think that they're more likely. Does that actually happen? Probably not. I mean, Josh Hart, he's a locker room guy, apparently. He's really important to what they do defensively, so I don't see it. I guess Bridges might be the most likely because New York fans are fickle people and seem to think that he may be overpaid. I think he's playing well enough, especially on both ends of the floor. I think he does a lot of good things, both offensively and defensively, to make him a key part of what the Knicks do going forward, especially if Mike Brown comes in and he changes the offense up and he doesn't use his guys as much as Thibodeau was.
It is really interesting, David, because when you kind of look at how this is all unfolded, they went from the toast of the town after they beat the Celtics to a very disappointed Big Apple, obviously, with the way things unfolded in that Indiana series. Losing 2 years in a row to that Pacers team, I think, really left a bad taste in a lot of Knicks fans' palates. And then you add to it the fact that, quite frankly, Josh Hart didn't play all that well in the postseason. I think he would be the first one to admit that. And then Bridges missed some timely shots that he needs to be able to knock down with his length. He's that spot up shooter in the corner. You need him to be able to make those open looks. So I understand some of the frustration from New York fans and maybe why it might be tempting for the Knicks to make a move or two. And I thought, quite honestly, they might have to break it up or at least find something different to with after the way that Indiana series unfolded, because it went 6, but it didn't feel that close, and it really kind of had the old school Knicks Pacers feeling of, man, Indiana just has New York's number for whatever reason. There's no Reggie Miller anymore, but there's this Tyrese Halliburton guy that can do whatever he wants and turns into Superman 2.0 whenever he faces the Knicks. But then the NBA Finals, Game 7 happens. Halliburton, unfortunately, tears the Achilles. He's going to miss most of, if not all of next season. He's not going to be himself in all likelihood when he comes back. Jason Tatum tore his ACL in the series against the Knicks. So the Celtics have kind of gone into sell mode. They're looking to retool and kind of reconnoiter next year to try to figure out and really look more for 2 years down the line. So basically, you have a shorthanded Pacers team that was relying almost entirely on Halliburton. He won't be himself if he's even available. You have a new look Celtics team. So now it seems to come down to sort of the Knicks and the Cavaliers. And if I'm New York, if I'm James Dolan, and that's not, I mean, I'd like his bank account. I don't know if there's anything else about that sense that I would really enjoy all that much. But if I am the Knicks brain trust, I think I'm running it back one more time, wouldn't you?
I agree, and I think that getting inside James Dolan's head is a scary place to be, considering that we have no idea what he's going to do. I don't think anybody, even with the criticisms of Tom Thibodeau's offense, he was 2 games away from the NBA Finals. There aren't a lot of coaches that get fired after a season that good. But to go back to the trio of Nova players, I mean, fans, we all from time to time are victims of the moment. And when you see Hart struggle a little bit in the series against Indiana and Bridges struggling, you tend to forget what happened in the regular season and what they were doing and the pieces that they add. You can have bad games from time to time, but I think overall their value to the Knicks is more important than a bad series against the Pacers.
And then the other part of it that I think is really intriguing is Mike Brown. Obviously, he kind of created his own identity early in his career. He was LeBron James' first NBA coach that led him to the finals with the Cavaliers. And Mike Brown took a lot of heat at times, and I thought somewhat undeservedly so. But eventually, that went the way it did. He got let go.
Everybody who's ever been with LeBron has taken a
I
lot of
was,
heat that
I
they
was
probably don't deserve.
I knew you were going to go there. I was trying to tee you up. I was wondering where you were. But Mike Brown is out looking for a job. Where does he go to rehabilitate himself in the eyes of the NBA? He goes and becomes Steve Kerr's right hand man at Golden State. And I think that's intriguing for the quote unquote Nova Knicks because who loved Jay Wright's system at Villanova more in terms of how it translated to the NBA than Steve Kerr? Steve Kerr put him on the Olympic coaching staff, Jay Wright, when he was over there, the Olympics previous to this one. He also went out of his way, it seemed, to go get Villanova guys whenever he could. Amari Spellman, he traded for Eric Pascal, he picked up. And then Dante DiVincenzo, he kind of resurrected Dante's career after it didn't work out in Sacramento, went and got him, rebuilt his confidence, and at the time said there's something about these Villanova guys, the way they were taught, the way they were prepared, the way they attacked the game, and then their embrace of positionless basketball. You don't have to teach them ball movement, make the extra pass. It's already ingrained in them. And if Mike Brown, who I think did this when he went to the Kings as a head coach, really brought a lot of Steve Kerr's principles into what he likes to do defensively, I thought that all of a sudden it might have been a better hire than people are giving it credit for because this is what Bridges, Hart, and especially Brunson do exceedingly well. They make special plays. They make the plays that a lot of other players might not see. The unselfish play. Obviously, Brunson isn't afraid to play hero ball when necessary, but it's that extra play, that little high basketball IQ play that if Mike Brown can harness and then figure out a way to get Karl Anthony Towns involved, boy, I think the Knicks have something potentially special.
I agree, and I think that just in this NBA era, there's gonna be some hero ball that gets played, and when you're Jalen Brunson and you're putting up the numbers that he's putting up, he's the guy that the Knicks are going to turn to. That being said, like you said about Steve Kerr and Mike Brown, they want to move the ball. They want to find the open guy. They want to do that. And that was the culture that Jay built at Nova. It's not just his plays, it's getting guys to build into that and say, I'm not going to take this shot. I'm going to get the better shot. And I think that will really help out those guys when Mike Brown comes and he's looking for that better shot. He's not looking for the high ball screen. We're just going to go one on one downhill and see what happens kind of offense.
Now, this was all probably nonsense, but there was one big X factor. CBS Sports actually had it last week, and I've seen it a couple of other places since. Obviously, LeBron James didn't necessarily love the way the trade worked out last year with Dallas. He didn't like that he was not catered to more than maybe he was at this stage of his career. The Lakers go through an ownership change. He maybe isn't trusting the situation fully in LA. If he's looking for a change of scenery, he's talked so many times about how much he loves playing in the Garden and about how enticing becoming a Knick would be. He's jolted the Knicks fans on a couple times in free agency. Does he want to try to cement his legacy with a championship in the Big Apple? And if so, if LeBron James tried to push a trade to the Knicks, the guys that would line up best to make that really be able to work from the cap standpoint would be Josh Hart and Mikal Bridges. I think that's the one way that you could see the Nova Knicks broken up before next year.
Yeah, I think that the Knicks would not be in a good place if they went all in on LeBron. What, he's 41, going to be 42 next season.
You
Like,
know, there was a video that came out a couple weeks ago where his wife is in the background talking, or he's in the background saying that his wife wants him to retire and wants him to be done. So clearly, it's not a long-term proposition, as two married guys can attest, if that's the conversations that are happening.
yeah, but I think right now the Knicks are in a better place without LeBron, without somebody who's going to demand the ball. That's just who LeBron James is. That's honestly what he's earned over his career is the ability to demand the ball and say, "I'm just LeBron James." But I don't think that works in a Steve Kerr now, Mike Brown offense of the Knicks. It doesn't work. It's not a player first. It's not an all five guys on the floor offense. And I don't see that working. I think that if you were to seriously, sorry, LeBron fans, if you were to seriously look at the NBA right now and say you were starting a team, LeBron is 6, 7 on that list. Like, if that. I'm sorry. I got a few guys ahead of him that I want on my team.
I agree. Although the list does get a little shorter, at least for next season, with all the injuries that we have seen.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, at this stage of his career, and that being said, how many times have we said Jimmy Dolan? I mean, Jimmy Dolan, everything he touches, he seems to blow up. I mean, the only thing he's gotten
Mm-hmm.
right in the last 10 years, it seems like, is figured out a way to get Billy Joel to play there every month for 10 years. I mean, made money. He's very good at making money, making decisions. The Rangers and Knicks fans will tell you not so good at that whatsoever. But it would be enticing. It certainly would be something we could see Stephen A. Smith talking about constantly on ESPN. And it is the NBA. It's the greatest soap opera in sports. So you never quite know. We won't count it out just yet until somebody says it's not happening or until LeBron says this is where I'm going to play in 2025, 2026.
I can tell you if LeBron goes to New York, one person who's not going to be there is his wife. She's not leaving LA to go back to New York to live in the cold like they did in Cleveland. So if LeBron decides that he wants to leave LA, I think he's going to do it by himself for most of the season, and his wife is going to stay in LA and have a good time.
Well, I'll have to figure out how to get Bronny there. I don't think he's going to go by himself. I think he'll have to figure that out. That's for sure. But, we'll have to wait and see. Let's stick with this Nova in the NBA theme that Steven started for us. We talked a couple weeks ago about Eric Dixon going undrafted but signing with the Lakers. Well, last week there were some rumors floating around that LA was looking to land another former Wildcat in Cam Whitmore. That didn't come to fruition, though, as Whitmore was instead traded to Washington at the beginning of this week. And there was another former Cat in that three-way deal. Now, Sadiq Bey's trade to New Orleans had been announced in late June, but it became official once the league year got underway, the fiscal year, on July the 6th. And it turns out he's involved in that deal, along with Jordan Poole and a second-round pick to New Orleans. Whitmore heads to D.C. with Kelly Olynyk and CJ McCollum, while the Rockets get cap space and 3 second-round picks. Here's the question, David. Which former Nova standout ended up in a better spot for them?
I guess you have to define what is a better spot for them.
Spoken
Whether
like a true lawyer right there.
whether you want to win now or you want more playing time. I think Whitmore obviously is going to get more time in Washington. Washington is just in a worse position than they are in New Orleans. I don't think either team is necessarily pushing for an NBA championship, but the Pelicans are clearly in a better position. Bay's playing time with them is probably less certain, but I guess I would say Whitmore just because he has a real opportunity now to display his skills on what's probably a bad team. If they do well, it's going to look really good for him. So that I would go probably with Whitmore just in that sense.
It is. I mean, he is the guy that is so tantalizing when you look at his talent, his athletic ability, all the things he can do on a basketball court. The sky quite literally feels like the limit with Cam Whitmore, and yet he has never fully put it together and lived up to those expectations. I think he would be the first to tell you it didn't work out the way he hoped at Villanova. That was a real tough spot, though, that he was put into. Not only a freshman going into a system that was really reliant on experience and spending time in the system, playing with a bunch of veterans that had been together for a wide stretch. And also, obviously, everybody knows not playing for the head coach that he signed up to play for, instead playing for Kyle Neptune. So, his one and done. He was supposed to be a lottery pick. He ends up sliding into the 20s with the Rockets. Thought that was a pretty good spot for him. And then the Rockets, all of a sudden, they ascertain all this talent, and now they're in a win now mode. And all of a sudden, Whitmore was getting time, but maybe not as much as he wants. And yet the scouts still love him. They think that this kid still has a chance to be an absolute star in this league. But you can only afford to pay so many guys. Rockets decided to move some bodies and work the cap space. But in order to move those bodies, had to give up a young talent. That's Whitmore. And I think you're right. And the opportunity in Washington, the Wizards tried it playing with a bunch of older guys that were on the tail end, try to see what they could get out of the ends of their career. And we all saw how that worked out. They were trending to be the worst team in the history of the NBA for most of last season. Then they almost screwed up their draft place because they started winning games down the stretch. Sums up life in the bottom of the NBA right now with the way it works. You want to lose rather than win. That's a whole different problem that Adam Silver is going to have to get figured out. But for Washington, they've decided to get young, and I think that is a good thing for Cam Whitmore. I think he is going to get a chance to be showcased and a centerpiece for that Washington team. We'll see if he can handle it, but this is the opportunity that everybody thought he was going to be able to earn for himself, and here it is now for him on a silver platter. Meanwhile, Sadiq Bey, I like Sadiq Bey in New Orleans because he's a glue guy. I mean, he was a really
Mm-hmm.
good player at Villanova. If the pandemic doesn't happen and the NCAA tournament occurs in 2020, I still think that Nova team has a chance to go to the Final Four. They were really gelling down the stretch, beating Seton Hall, earning the tie for the Big East Championship. Sadiq Bey had come into his own, found his voice, found his game, found his role inside the Jay Wright system. And he's another one of those Villanova guys that kind of takes that mindset that Jay Wright instilled in everybody and will do the dirty work for you. And also, he's capable of scoring when you really need it.
Yeah. And I mean, just as a practical matter for both of them, Whitmore being in the Eastern Conference with all of the injuries that you just mentioned, I mean, the Wizards are just going to have a better shot to be one of the eight in the playoffs versus the Pelicans in the West, where you have to deal with LA and what they're rebuilding. You have to deal with the Rockets and how they look. The Mavericks are reloading. Yeah, haven't even mentioned the NBA champions, the Thunder. Who knows what the Warriors look like next year? So the West just looks like a stronger conference. So it's going to be more difficult to win out in the West than it is in the Eastern Conference, especially if those guys don't come back this year. I mean, we're Halliburton's probably done for the next season. We'll see what. Gosh, now I'm losing his name. Jason Tatum looks like after he gets back. But other than the Knicks, you've got some wiggle room there. Probably 4 through 8.
You can sneak in, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And you get good in a hurry. And, Washington tried losing. I think they noticed that was not working anymore in D.C. Nobody was going to the games. They were already mad that the owner was threatening to move to Virginia. They need to try to win some games. And maybe Cam Whitmore can be a part of that. By the way, we'll forgive you for the little brain fog there. I mean, you did buy a car a couple hours ago. It's been a busy time for David Wolf.
I just refuse to name Duke players anywhere.
Well, as we move into the dog days of summer, they've really begun now that Independence Day holiday is in the rearview mirror. We're still waiting on Villanova to finalize its non-conference schedule. It's become an annual thing, notoriously late in posting their slate over the years. But thanks to media hounds like John Rothstein and Rocco Miller, the opponents have started to come into focus, David. We know Nova is opening against BYU in Vegas. Plus, we know they'll play Old Dominion, Sacred Heart, Queens, and Duquesne at home, as well as at Michigan and at Wisconsin, plus their 3 annual Big Five games, one of which will be at the Wells Fargo Center or whatever that's being called now. We'll figure out their ads a little bit later on. Couple more games still to be unveiled. I'd have to imagine there's going to be one more reasonably named opponent that'll come home. I know Villanova was scheduling a lot of the back ends of the home and homes. Wisconsin and Michigan will make the return trip next year. But the schedule, at least non-conference wise, does feel a little light at home. You'd like to have at least one decent name opponent coming either to the Finneran Pavilion or into Philly. And I know Kevin Willard had said earlier in the offseason that he was searching for that and trying to get a deal like that done. But as you look at that list, what non-conference matchup that we know about are you looking forward to most?
Well, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I think there are two that are, or I'm going to circle. One is just the opener against BYU.
Okay.
You see what Kevin Willard has planned for the team, see where they are, what they look like, and just as a basketball fan, I want to see what AJ Diabanis. I'm not going to pronounce his
We
last
got to
name.
figure that one out
Yeah,
before
we got to
November. We got to get
get
that
that
one
name
figured.
out. But I want to see what he looks like. See what this BYU team that spent up like $6 million on this kid, what they put around him. But I think it'll be a good game just as a basketball fan to see what this kid looks like. But in terms of competition, I think at Wisconsin is going to be a big game. Obviously, Wisconsin was a tournament team this year. They look like they're going to be strong again next year. So I think that they're going to be the team that really you learn because Wisconsin's not going to beat themselves. You have to go beat Wisconsin. I mean, they're notorious for they're going to do what they do. And that was always the Villanova model under Jay. We'll see what Kevin Willard does in Wisconsin. And when's that going to be? In November?
Yeah, that one I believe late November. The Michigan game in mid-December, and
Mm-hmm.
it's starting to piece together now. And you're right. Hey, there's some unfinished business too with Wisconsin. I mean, who knows how the butterfly effect all works out? But Wisconsin, you could argue, kept Villanova from a three-peat. That win in 2017, that upset, that still hurts if you're a Villanova fan. Obviously, it was cauterized by the win the previous year, championship against North Carolina, and then having one of the best teams in the last 25 years of college basketball the following season. But they should have gotten at least to another Final Four. And then with the talent they had in place, I mean, 3 of those guys are now taking a team to the Eastern Conference Finals in the NBA. So I think suffice to say they were pretty darn good. That was a national championship caliber team. And Wisconsin, I still can't figure out how Villanova lost that game. They made every play in the second half. It was unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, at Michigan, it's going to be a great game. I like what Dusty May did last year with Michigan. I think he's going to keep building on that. He's a great coach. So we'll see what they look like. They got Elliot Cadeau out of the transfer portal. So it looks like they're going to be solid at point guard. But not to discount Old Dominion, Sacred Heart, Queens, and Duquesne. But I think obviously the Power Five teams, along with BYU out of the Mountain West, is those are going to be the three
Oh, no, 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 no.
No,
Don't get the Big 12 people mad now.
Big
BYU
12.
made that
Big
move.
12 now.
They're
Okay.
the power conference. If the Big East and power
Sorry.
conference was, hey, we don't want, we've already ticked off enough fan bases. We don't have to
Sorry,
get
Big 12.
on the Big 12 bad
My
side.
bad. I can't
Uh,
keep up with all the teams
it's a
moving
constant.
every year. I mean,
Just ridiculous. It is kind of weird to even think of BYU as a Big 12 program. I mean,
yeah.
look, I agree with you. Obviously, BYU is top on the list because it's the opener, because it's the
Mhm.
start of a new era. I am a little worried about how that game goes. Now, I think that was the time to get BYU because they've got so many new pieces. Get
Yeah,
them in the opener is not a bad thing, but I don't know if that's the time for Villanova to play its hardest competition of the season either, because I mean they have all the new pieces, 9% of their
exactly.
scoring, as we've said, back from a year ago. So I'm kind of looking at that Michigan game. I mean, they were a Sweet 16 team last year, and that was obviously rematch of the national championship game in 2018. And last time that those two programs squared up, Michigan just put a whooping on Villanova in the brand new Finneran Pavilion, the re-unveil of the new pavilion. That was disgusting. So you'd like
Yeah.
to get a little revenge on Michigan for that one. But two other off the radar games. I'm going to surprise you with one. Old Dominion, only
Mhm.
because Old Dominion ruined young Matt Janis's year back in the mid 90s when the first time that Villanova had a team that I thought could make a run in the NCAA tournament during my conscious life. It came in 1995, and Old Dominion as a 14 seed, coached by Jeff Capel's dad, beat Villanova in triple overtime. And we are going to, I think, this summer, have a series where we do some lists. And one of the shows we're going to do is the top five most devastating losses in Villanova history. Spoiler alert, that Old Dominion game is going to make the list. So I'd like to see Villanova beat Old Dominion by 100 if possible. And then the other one, I'd like Villanova to win the championship game of the Big Five Classic. I'd
Mhm.
like to get back to winning the Big Five. They dominated it for so long. It would be a real good sign for the long term prognosis of the program. And you're dominating your backyard. I know that there's varying degrees that the people care about the Big Five among Villanova fans. They don't want to lose maybe more than they want to win. I think
Mhm.
I understand why, because of the stature of the programs. Villanova should win the Big Five most years, but they
Yeah.
haven't since Jay Wright retired. And in
Yeah.
fact, they came in sixth one time in the Big Five, which is still one of the more embarrassing stats that Villanova has come up with in this 21st century. And it would be nice if you're playing in the championship game. That means you won your first two, and then win that championship game and get back into saying this is our city. I think would be a good thing for Villanova.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Big Five is a given every year as big games. But looking at just that, you have potentially three top 25 matchups on the schedule, right? Or top 25 teams on the schedule right now. I imagine that all three of them will probably BYU will probably be in the top 25. They may skate in at 24, 25, but they'll be there. And I think that Michigan and Wisconsin will definitely be in the top 20, if not top 15.
I mean, the thing about BYU, a lot of people are putting BYU preseason top 10. They think this kid is that good. Now, I have seen a couple where there are on the fringe of the top 25 who are maybe a little less believers. But I've seen a lot of top 10s for BYU. So I'm really interested to see what that Cougar team is. But that is also why I don't think it's the ideal time for Nova to get them. And while you're always excited for the opener, I think that's a
Yeah.
premier matchup for Villanova. I'm intrigued, but a tad worried, if we're being honest, about how that one necessarily unfolds for the Cats.
So I guess I'm one of the skeptics. I think he is that good. I just think college basketball is not the NBA where one guy can dominate an entire game and just will a team to victory. I think that I want to see the pieces that BYU puts around him because otherwise, with defense, college defenses, all right, we're gonna double him every time he touches the ball. He's still a freshman. He's still gonna make the freshman mistakes to start the season.
And he's good. He's not
And
Cooper Flag. I mean, that's
yeah,
the one thing. I don't. I mean, at least I don't think so. But I mean, people do think he is the real deal, legit though.
yeah, I don't think he's Cooper Flag, but even Cooper Flag, I mean, to start the season last year, he had two games in a row where one possession game he turns the ball over and it causes Duke to lose. I mean, freshmen make freshman mistakes. So, and Duke had a lot of really good pieces around Cooper Flag as well.
Spoken like a guy that dealt with 18 to 21-year-olds dictating his livelihood for a long time, right there. Freshmen
Exactly.
can make you lose your hair. And I don't have that excuse. I'm just losing it on my own. But I can feel you. I've heard enough coaches talk about that over the years. David, how was your holiday? Was it a good one?
It was a great one. We did absolutely nothing, sat on the couch. It was like I had a professional fireworks show in my backyard, and then I turned into an old man. And at 11 o'clock, I said, "Why are these kids still shooting off fireworks?" And then I went to bed.
You were able to sleep through the fireworks, so they didn't wake you up?
Yeah, oh yeah. Once I go to sleep, I'm out. I could sleep through a nuclear bomb going off.
Oh, what a skill. That is a good one to have. We had my father came over, our whole family came over. My father shot off some fireworks in the backyard, and I am happy to report he still has all his limbs and nothing burned down. So that's good news. There is a
That's a win.
huge brown patch though on my yard right now where the fireworks ended up. I'm gonna have to find a landscaper to get that one figured out.
Well, I don't know where these people got these fireworks from. They must have driven to South Carolina to get them, but these were like professional fireworks. Like I thought you had to be some kind of government entity to be able to buy these fireworks, but it was nice.
Hey, free show, you can't beat that, and there it is. So happy Independence Day in the rearview mirror. That means we're deep into the summer. We are coming up with some good ideas. We're going to continue our transfer portal series. We're hoping to have some interviews coming up, especially on the women's basketball side that we'll have lined up in the next few weeks. And then also we're going to have our list. Top players of the first quarter of the century in Villanova basketball, most disappointing losses, most exhilarating wins, and also who are the non-conference opponents that you want to see. Those are some of the things that we've got working on that we're going to roll out here in the coming weeks. But we want to hear from you. What topics do you want to hear us discuss? Leave them in the comment. Make sure to like and subscribe to the video. It really helps us get in front of a bigger audience. And as you see at the bottom of the screen, follow us on Twitter. Still trying to build an audience there at Holy Nova Podcast. We are part of the Big East Energy Network. For David White, I'm Matt Janis. Thanks so much for being with us. This has been Holy Nova. We'll be back next week.